Let me tell you about Bel Novak. She wasn't loud, she didn't play politics, and she never cared about being the favorite in the room. But when it came to raw talent, the kind that saves companies millions, she was untouchable. Bel was the kind of woman who stayed late without being asked, who fixed broken systems no one else even noticed, who solved problems faster than her bosses could describe them. She believed, maybe a little too much, that results would speak louder than office gossip. That hard work, just honest, relentless, brilliant work, was enough to earn her respect. But in the real world of boardrooms and bonuses, people like Bel, they don't rise. They get used. She was the engine, but no one ever saw the engine. They just drove the car and claimed the view. In her first 18 months at the company, Bel Novak saved them over $11 million. But not once did anyone say, "Thank you, Bel." She built an inventory tracking system that cut warehouse errors by 37%. No ceremony, no email, just a quiet rollout, and upper management taking the credit. She created a predictive model that helped international clients cut shipping costs by up to 25%. The model worked flawlessly, but when it was presented to the board, her name wasn't even mentioned. Then came her biggest win, spotting a fatal bug in the company's flagship software, a bug that could have lost their biggest client. She found it, fixed it, documented it. The VP of Tech got a raise. Bel got another weekend of overtime, but she didn't complain, not then, because Bel still believed that someone would notice, that good work, real work, eventually rises. She didn't know yet in that company, good work didn't rise. It vanished. At first, Bel thought she was just unlucky. Maybe her timing was off. Maybe she wasn't speaking up enough. Maybe people really had forgotten to include her name. But then she started watching more closely. She saw how the loudest voices got the praise even when they offered nothing but buzzwords and charm. She saw how managers promoted those who smiled at the right moments, not those who stayed late fixing real problems. The intern who spent more time perfecting her Instagram bio than learning the system got invited to executive lunches. The guy who reused Bel's code for a client demo, he got Employee of the Month. And Bel, she got silence. She wasn't invisible. She was being deliberately overlooked, not because her work wasn't good, but because her work made others look bad by comparison. That was when Bel Novak stopped thinking she needed to fit in. She realized something sharper. They weren't forgetting her. They were erasing her. It was supposed to be a breakthrough. Bel had spent weeks building a new algorithm, one that could predict port delays with frightening accuracy by analyzing real-time weather and congestion data. She had run simulations. She had validated outcomes. She even wrote an internal proposal with a full impact report. Excited, she booked a private meeting with her manager, Dominic. He nodded, listened, even said, "This could be big." Bel left that meeting hopeful for once. Maybe this time things would be different. 2 weeks later, in a company-wide leadership presentation, Dominic unveiled a new solution, a cutting-edge model built to anticipate port disruptions in real time. Her model, her data, her work. No mention of Bel, not a single word. After the meeting, she approached him confused. "Great job presenting the model," she said, forcing a smile. "I didn't realize it had already moved to rollout." Dominic didn't blink. "The framework was mine. You contributed to some of the technical pieces. That's how teamwork works, right?" And just like that, he stole it, right in front of her. That day, something in Bel's chest sank and stayed there. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at a man who wore her genius like a tailored suit, and a company that clapped for him like he'd invented fire. It was her first betrayal, but not her last. They called him the visionary, the man who finally fixed our logistics nightmare, a genius in operational flow. The email from the CEO landed in every inbox. Let's all take a moment to congratulate Dominic for the brilliant framework he introduced this quarter. His work is already improving our shipping efficiency company-wide. Bel stared at the email for a full minute. The words blurred. Her name was nowhere. The same framework she spent months building alone. No team, no assistants, no resources. Just her and a stubborn spreadsheet at 2 a.m. She read the praise again. Each line cut deeper. And Dominic? He walked through the office like a king. He joked in the break room. He shook hands with executives. He smiled like he'd earned every bit of it. No one suspected. No one questioned. Because in corporate life, it's not about who does the work, it's about who's seen doing it. And Bel, she wasn't even in the picture. She waited until the hallway cleared. Then she walked straight into his office. Dominic was sipping coffee, scrolling through his phone. Not a care in the world. "I saw the email from the CEO," Bel said calmly. "It's about the framework I built, isn't it?" He looked up, expression unreadable. "The framework?" he echoed. "Oh, you mean the predictive model. You helped with some of the numbers, right?" Just like that. A month of work reduced to some numbers. Bel blinked, not because she didn't understand, but because part of her still hoped he'd correct himself, that maybe, just maybe, he had made a mistake. He hadn't. "Look," he added, "you're great with data. That's why I trust you to support big initiatives like this. But the strategy, the high-level thinking, that's leadership work." That moment hurt more than any email, because now it wasn't just credit theft. It was erasure served with a smile. Bel walked out of that office quietly, but inside something had begun to unravel. She would never see Dominic the same way again, and soon she wouldn't see the company the same way either. She didn't go to HR right away. Bel waited, thought, replayed every moment in her head. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe confronting Dominic directly was the wrong approach. But the feeling wouldn't go away, so she booked a meeting with Eliana, the head of human resources. She came in with everything: emails, file timestamps, internal drafts, presentation outlines. She laid it all out calmly. This wasn't a complaint. It was a plea for recognition, for fairness. Eliana didn't even look up from her screen. "Do you have documentation that these were exclusively your ideas?" "Yes," Bel replied. "The original files are mine. I created them. Look at the timestamps." A pause. Then came the dagger. "Were these developed during company hours? On company systems?" Bel hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but Then they belong to the company, not to you personally." Just like that. No questions, no further discussion, no acknowledgement of the theft, because it wasn't legally theft, it was policy. "Dominic is your supervisor," Eliana added. "If he's presenting team innovations to leadership, that's well within his role." Bel sat there frozen. Everything in her chest went still. So that's how it worked. You could build brilliance, but if someone higher up took it, it was process, not betrayal. And HR? They weren't there to protect the builders. They were there to protect the system. Bel walked out of HR that day without a word. No tears, no drama. Just a quiet kind of fury that settled deep in her bones. She stopped trusting the process, stopped believing in systems, stopped hoping someone upstairs would notice. Instead, she started building something else, a record. Every file, every email, every conversation. She saved original drafts, exported time-stamped versions, printed meeting notes. She documented everything she created, who she sent it to, when, and what happened next. She bought a private external hard drive. Didn't use company storage anymore. Didn't leave evidence on shared folders. She even kept a notebook, old-school handwritten, where she listed every stolen idea, every comment Dominic made that rewrote history in his favor, every moment HR looked away. She didn't tell a soul. Because the best revenge doesn't start with noise. It starts with receipts. And Bel Novak, she was building a case stronger than any complaint. She was preparing for a war they didn't even know was coming. Her name was Ren, 22, Ivy League, and the CEO's niece. She arrived on a Monday morning, glossy resume, spotless heels, zero experience. From day one, the red carpet was rolled out. She was invited to strategy meetings Bel had never even been allowed to sit in. She got her own company laptop, her own mentor, her own parking spot. People laughed at her jokes even when they weren't funny. They nodded at her questions even when they didn't make sense. And when she gave presentations, everyone clapped, even when her slides were just recycled templates and buzzwords. Meanwhile, Bel, the woman who had built systems that saved the company millions, was told she needed to be more collaborative and give the interns some space to shine. Bel watched as Ren got handed access she'd spent 3 years earning, not because Ren was smarter, not because Ren was better, but because Ren belonged to the right last name, to the right bloodline, to the right room. And Bel, she belonged to no one. 3 weeks. That's how long Ren had been at the company. Just 3 weeks, and she was already scheduled to present at the Executive Innovation Summit, a spot Bel had never been offered. Not once. Not in 3 years. Bel watched from the back of the conference room, half hidden her badge, not even scanned for official attendance. Then the lights dimmed, and Ren took the stage. Today, I'm proud to present a framework designed to revolutionize our logistics model, she said, smiling like she meant it. We call it Velocity 4.0. Bel's breath caught in her throat. Velocity 4.0? That was her name, her title. It was on the first draft she saved 2 months ago, the one she'd shared with Dominic in confidence. Slide after slide, her charts, her language, her proprietary sequences. Some fonts were changed, some graphics were updated, but the core, it was hers. And the room ate it up. Applause, praise, high-level nods, and murmurs of, this could change everything. And there, Bel sat invisible, forgotten, erased. She didn't stand up. She didn't scream. She just sat there, listening to her life's work being applauded for someone else. She showed up early, wearing her best navy dress, not because she expected to walk the stage, but because deep down, a part of her still hoped someone would acknowledge her. The lobby was glowing with lights, staff in suits, champagne flutes clinking, name tags sparkling, laughter in the air, carefree, empty. Bel walked up to the check-in table. The event coordinator looked at the guest list, then blinked at her. Sorry, you're not on the list. Bel smiled politely. I'm Bel Novak, senior analyst. I worked on... A voice cut in from the side. It was Renata, the marketing director. Cold, sharp, polished. We're at capacity. You can wait outside. The hallway went quiet. Someone turned. Then another. All eyes on Bel. She stood there, folder in hand, the same folder that held the algorithm that saved this company $8 million. She looked past the velvet ropes, saw Ren laughing at a corner table, wearing an award badge already pinned to her chest. Bel blinked slowly. Then she nodded. I see, she whispered. And with that, she turned, opened her laptop, and began to type. You can wait outside. It echoed in her skull like a gunshot in a tunnel. Not yelled, not even cruel in tone, just final, dismissive. Bel didn't speak, didn't argue. She just stood there, folder in hand, heart locked in her chest. People passed by her without eye contact. Some glanced quickly, then looked away. No one said her name. She took one slow breath. Years of missed credit, months of stolen work, weeks of watching someone else rise off her back. This was the line. The line they thought she would accept. But they didn't know Bel Novak. She turned calm, quiet, steady, found a quiet bench just beyond the marble entrance, opened her laptop, logged into a private server, attached 7 resignation letters, attached patent filings, attached client agreements. Her fingers hovered over the send button. She looked back toward the door, toward the room that had just told her she wasn't worthy of entry, and without blinking, she pressed send. Inside the ballroom, glasses clinked. Laughter floated like perfume in the air. Someone tapped a spoon against crystal. Let's raise a glass to Ren, the future of logistics innovation. Applause erupted. Ren beamed, lifting her champagne like a queen crowned on stolen gold. Outside, Bel sat alone on a bench near the glass entrance. The sounds of the celebration were muffled now, like a party on the other side of a war. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She just opened her laptop. The screen lit up. Her fingers moved with calm precision. Each click, each scroll, each drag and drop was surgical. She had practiced this. 7 resignation letters, time-stamped proof of intellectual property, patent application confirmation, a press release scheduled to go live at 8 a.m. sharp, and client transition agreements signed under NDA. Everything was ready. Everything had been waiting for this moment. And now, as Ren toasted a future built on theft, Bel Novak hit send. Subject, effective immediately, notice of resignation and intellectual property transfer. Bel's email went out at 6:43 p.m. It was sent to the entire executive board, HR, legal counsel, and select department heads. Inside the body, 4 attachments. 1. 8 resignations, hers and 7 others. All signed, all effective immediately, all from key departments. Data ops, strategy, product. 2. A compiled dossier, 82 pages of documentation, screenshots, source files, timestamps. Side-by-side comparisons between her original framework and what was presented by Dominic and Ren. 3. A business registration notice, Nexus Paradigm Int, filed, funded, and formally established under a holding company name, complete with leadership bios. Bel listed as founder and CEO. 4. Preliminary client agreements, 5 signed memorandums of understanding, clients worth over $40 million in annual contracts, all noting intent to transition, pending Bel's formal launch. And beneath it all, a single sentence. Since you didn't save me a seat at the table, I've built my own. No anger, no insults, just precision, like a scalpel. And the moment she hit send, Bel Novak didn't flinch. But inside that ballroom, someone dropped a glass. She didn't wait to hear the fallout, didn't pause to see who panicked first. She closed her laptop, stood up, straightened the hem of her dress, and walked. Not rushed, not shaken, just steady. Behind her, inside the ballroom, the first ding echoed, then another, and another. Chairs scraped, forks stopped midair. The clinking of glasses died. A voice whispered, "Did you get that email?" Bel didn't turn around. She didn't need to, because she knew she had just cracked the room open like glass under pressure. The polite applause, the champagne, the smirks, they were all drowning now in silence. She walked past the valet, past the company banners, past the security who didn't even look her way. No spotlight, no stage, just freedom, one step at a time. She had barely reached the parking garage when her phone began to ring. Call number 1, the CEO. Declined. Call number 2, Dominic. Declined. Call number 3, HR. Declined. Then came the messages. Ping, ping, ping. One after another. Desperate, breathless, pathetic. Bel, we need to talk. Now. Let's fix this. Please. Come back inside. We can offer you anything you want. Double your salary. VP title. Your own team. Name it. She didn't reply. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but because the game was already over. They just didn't know it yet. Inside that building, people were scrambling, trying to piece together what had just happened, trying to undo what couldn't be undone. And Bel, she was already unlocking her car, already 2 steps ahead, already free. The office was nothing glamorous. An old industrial space with concrete floors and bare brick walls. No logos, no plaques, no name on the door. But it was theirs, and that made all the difference. Bel walked in, laptop under one arm, eyes still sharp from the night before, waiting for her Tamsin. Product development, her patent was stolen. Leo, client relations, pushed out after his $1 million retention strategy was repurposed. Meredith, operations, the backbone of every major account, yet always passed over. Ian, analytics, his model saved a division, but HR said he lacked leadership presence. Ria, UI, UX, designed the interface the company still used uncredited. Miguel, finance, flagged the fraud no one wanted to hear about. Chloe, compliance, silenced when she exposed policy violations at the top. They stood. They nodded. They didn't say much. They didn't need to. Because in that room, for the first time in years, they weren't overlooked. They weren't dismissed. They were seen. Not as replaceable, but as essential. Bel set her laptop down, exhaled, and said only one thing. Let's begin. It started with a soft launch. No PR blitz, no flashy ads, no LinkedIn war posts. Just one clean website, one white paper, and one simple headline. We don't compete, we rebuild from the ground up. The name, Nexus Paradigm. The vision, solve the problems others ignored. The method, a framework Bel designed, one they tried to bury. But now it was reborn, stronger, leaner, built not just by Bel, but by a team that knew exactly what broken looked like. They didn't market to everyone. They targeted the pain. Corporations struggling with bloated processes, stagnant innovation, and leadership teams too proud to listen. In the first 30 days, 2 Fortune 500 companies signed on. They didn't care who Bel used to be. They only cared about what she had built now. It began with a whisper, a client here, a phone call there. Hey, didn't Bel Novak work on the system we're using? Actually, she built it. And she has her own firm now? Then it became a pattern. One by one, key accounts walked away. No drama, no lawsuits, just quiet exits and new contracts signed with Nexus Paradigm. By the end of the quarter, 6 former clients had officially made the switch. The impact? The old company's stock dipped 12% in a week, then 20%. Investors asked questions. The board panicked. Dominic? Nowhere to be seen. But the market didn't wait. They moved money to the people who actually delivered value. And for the first time, Bel's name was being whispered in boardrooms she had once been banned from. The email came at 6:47 a.m. Effective immediately, Dominic Ward has resigned from his position as executive vice president. No explanation, no farewell message, no apology. By 10 a.m., the CEO was standing before a dozen cameras flanked by stiff-faced board members. We are entering a period of restructuring, he said. We've learned hard lessons. It's time for change. But inside Nexus Paradigm, there was no celebration, no champagne, just the hum of laptops and the sound of real work being done. Bel looked up briefly from her screen, saw the press conference headline on someone's monitor, then returned to her spreadsheet. Because for her and her team, this wasn't about revenge. It was about building something clean, something lasting, something that didn't require betrayal to succeed. They weren't chasing headlines. They were chasing excellence. He showed up in a charcoal suit and a $2,000 briefcase. Vincent Harlan, vice president, the man who used to walk past Bel in the elevator without ever saying her name. Now he stood in the lobby of Nexus Paradigm, trying not to look impressed by the buzz of energy inside. Ms. Novak, he said with a stiff smile, I'm here on behalf of the board. We'd like to propose an acquisition. Bel didn't flinch. She didn't invite him into the glass meeting room. She didn't offer coffee. She simply replied, We're not for sale. Vincent opened the briefcase, laid down a thick folder. Name your price. The board is prepared to offer full equity buyout and a C-level role, Chief Innovation Officer, with no ceiling. Bel looked down at the folder, then back at Vincent. You didn't see me when I built it, she said. You don't get to buy it now. Silence. He knew the answer. And outside, a deliveryman passed by with a stack of printed banners, Nexus Paradigm, official partner of Halberd Global, one of their largest former clients, now signed to Bel's company. The call came at 7:12 p.m. Private number. But Bel knew exactly who it was. She answered on speaker, her team around her. No secrets. "Miss Novak," said the CEO's voice, measured, cautious, polite in a way it never was before. "Let's not waste time. We're prepared to offer a full acquisition of Nexus Paradigm at $37.5 million. Plus, we'd like you to return as Chief Innovation Officer. You'd have full autonomy, no red tape." There was a pause on Bel's end, not from shock, from calculation. She glanced at her team's 7 faces, who once sat in silence at long tables, whose ideas were once dismissed, whose careers were once stalled. Now they were building something real, something they owned. Bel leaned slightly forward. "I'm not interested in going back," she said, "especially to a place that had to lose everything just to realize what I was worth." "We're offering more than just money," the CEO insisted. "This is legacy, influence. You'd be leading the next generation of thinkers." Bel smiled warm but unshaken. "I'm already doing that," she said, without asking permission. And with that, she ended the call. No drama, just clarity. The room was quiet. The offer had been made. The numbers had been said. The position, the one she used to dream about, was on the table. But Bel didn't pause. She didn't ask her team. She didn't need to. She looked directly into the camera on her laptop, where the CEO and 3 board members waited for her answer. And she said, "There was a time I asked to sit at your table. I tried to play by your rules. I worked harder, spoke softer, waited for permission." She took a breath. "That was my mistake. Now I have my own table, and the people sitting at it, they earned their place, same way I did." The board was silent. The CEO opened his mouth, then closed it. Bel leaned back, calm, steady, unshaken. "You don't need to call again," she added. "We're good where we are." And with that, she logged off. Bel didn't slam the laptop shut. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Instead, she simply smiled. A soft, confident smile. The kind of smile that says, "You no longer get to define me." Around her, her team stayed silent. Not out of fear, but respect. Because they knew this wasn't just a no. It was a closing of an old chapter, and the opening of something far bigger than one job, one title, one check. Bel stood up, stretched gently, and said, "I'm going to be late for the design sprint. We've got a new prototype to test." As she walked out, the last thing she said was barely above a whisper, but it echoed louder than any boardroom offer. "You don't need to believe in me. I do." And that was enough. The lights dimmed, the room went still. 4,000 people. The biggest logistics conference in the country. C-suite executives, media investors, all seated, all silent. A name appeared on the massive LED screen. Bel Novak, keynote speaker, founder and CEO, Nexus Paradigm. She stepped onto the stage. No introduction needed, just her, a black suit, and that same quiet confidence. She walked to the mic, paused, and smiled, then said in a voice calm as steel, "1 year ago, someone told me, you can wait outside." The room stiffened. People exchanged glances. Some knew, some remembered, some didn't dare breathe. Today, I open this talk with the same words, but not to exclude anyone. She looked around the packed hall. I say it now to every woman who's been underestimated, to every intern who wasn't invited into the meeting room, to every builder, thinker, doer who ever heard, "Not yet." You don't have to wait outside anymore. Thunderous applause. And then Bel Novak began her speech. Not just about logistics, but about building tables, not begging for seats. Bel stood at the podium. No cue cards, no teleprompter. She looked directly into the audience, thousands of faces, watching, waiting. She took a breath, then spoke the 6 words that once broke her. "You can wait outside," she said. A murmur rolled through the room. She let it sit in the air for 3 seconds, long enough to make everyone feel the weight of it. long enough for some to remember exactly where they'd heard it before. Then she continued, "Those were the words someone used to keep me out, not because I wasn't good enough, but because I didn't play the game. I didn't flatter the right people, I didn't belong to the right circles. I believed results would speak for themselves." She looked up, voice clear, unwavering. I was wrong. Results don't speak when someone else is holding the mic. A ripple of silent recognition moved through the crowd, but I didn't shout. I didn't scream. I built. "I want to tell you a story," Bel began, not with bitterness, not with fire, but with quiet steel. "A few years ago, I worked at a company where I gave my all. I created systems that saved them millions. I mentored teammates who are now industry leaders. I stayed late, showed up early, and believed in the mission." She paused. "But I wasn't seen. My ideas walked into boardrooms without me, and I stood outside hearing my work applauded under someone else's name." She didn't say his name. She didn't say hers either, because this wasn't about them anymore. One night after being told to wait outside, I opened my laptop and wrote an email that would change everything. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was clear. She looked at the crowd. I left, but I wasn't alone. I took 7 others who'd also been overlooked. And we built something better. Bel took a breath. Her eyes swept the crowd not with pride, but with clarity. Then she said, "Don't fight for a seat at a table built to exclude you." She let the silence stretch. Let the room feel it. Then, with a calm fierceness, she finished, "Build your own." Pause. No music, no lights, just truth. Some people in the crowd wiped their eyes. Others stood up without even realizing it. Because in that moment, Bel Novak wasn't just talking about her story. She was speaking to everyone who's ever been underestimated, talked over, left out of rooms they helped build. And in 6 words, she gave them all permission to stop begging and start building. Silence. Then one clap. Then another. Then a ripple. Until the entire hall was standing, applauding. Some clapped with both hands, some with one hand over their heart, some with tears in their eyes. But all were standing. Bel didn't bow, she didn't beam, she just nodded once, like someone who knew her worth now had space to breathe. And then, across the room, a man in a gray suit rose, slowly. He had once told her, "You can wait outside." Now he clapped too, not out of pity, not out of guilt, but because even he could see what the world had tried to silence now owned the stage. And the applause, it wasn't just for Bel. It was for every unheard voice that finally had someone to say it loud. Don't chase validation in rooms that were never built for you. Your value isn't measured by who claps for you today, but by what you quietly build when no one is looking. When your ideas are stolen, your name ignored, your seat denied, don't beg. Document, build, and when the time comes, stand up so tall, even the walls that shut you out can't block the echo of your name. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is success with grace. If this story made your heart beat a little faster, if you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told to wait outside, hit subscribe. Because on this channel, we don't just tell stories, we reclaim voices. We honor the quiet fighters, and we remind the world that the seat you build for yourself is the one that lasts. Subscribe now and don't miss the next story that just might be yours.